Are you doing a no-buy year in 2025? And if so, are you doing it to become a mindful consumer, or are you just broke? Hi, I'm Lauren, filmmaker extraordinaire, and today I'm talking about no-buy years. This was all over my feed at the beginning of 2025, no-buys, low buys, whether it was for just January or for the whole year of 2025. And now that it's been over halfway through the year, I wanted to revisit the topic because I wanted to see if anyone ends up commenting that they started a no-buy, hasn't gotten there, etc. Just get some feedback on whether that kick really lasted or not, because I don't see as many people talking about it anymore. There's the same sustainable creators who have been making sustainability content for a long time still talking about being a better, consumer, Project Pan, etc. But otherwise, it feels like it was just a trend to talk about, then wiped off the face of the earth. I'm hoping that this video will prove to me, through you guys commenting below, that it wasn't just a fad and we are still sticking through no buy-in. In the interest of transparency, for me personally, I have been working on a journey to become a more mindful consumer, buying more ethically, more sustainably, buying less. And I have, mentioned it on the journey, I think, to you guys a bit when it's come to mostly clothing and beauty products. But I am trying to do it in other aspects of my life as well. I just feel like it's been most evident, at least on YouTube, with those two things. So it is a topic that I myself am really interested in, although I have a take on no buys specifically that I will get to at the end of the video. So you'll have to wait and see what that is. If you're new to the internet, or you just were on a totally different side of TikTok, YouTube, whatever, at the beginning of the year, because trust me, I know there's so many different sides of every social media platform. Let's start with the basic definition of what a no-buy even is, because otherwise you're not going to really know what on earth I'm talking about. If we're thinking mindfully, a no-buy is a period to help gain awareness of how you are manipulated into buying, building self-control over spending, and nurturing habits to live intentionally. And you can find all sorts of beautiful, mindful things if you look at nourishingminimalism.com, because that's where I found that information. It's very fancy sounding. But you could also say you're not buying anything that isn't necessary to live, period. Not to live spontaneously, to live maximizingly, to live, crazily, just to live, point blank, period. The only buying things that are necessary part is important, because I think some people hear no buy and they think they can't buy anything and they have to somehow stock up on anything they might need for a year beforehand. That's not the case. You can still buy, gas for your cars. You can get to work, get groceries. You can still buy groceries, pay for bills, utilities, etc. Like the things that are basic life necessities, you're still allowed to buy following the rules of a no buy. It's just more frivolous purchases or things with that disposable income. It's like you don't have disposable income anymore. That part's the part that you're not spending, and you're not buying anything with that. You're still paying for things you need to do for you, for your dependents. No, there's no part of the no buy actually means not buying anything for 12 months. I also want to say before we get too into the video that in order to do a no buy or a low buy or anything like that, you do have to be coming from a point of privilege, in the sense that you have extra money to be spending already and you're buying things that are not needed, as there are a lot of people around the world and in America where they don't have the money to spend on things they don't need already. So this really is coming from a point of assuming that you're in a privileged position to have disposable income or income you're spending on things you don't need. And I am aware that that's not the reality for everybody, but I still want to make this video because I think that the planet needs our help, and this could be a way to do that for those who can afford to make that choice and make that difference. Quickly, let's just talk about some common rules for what you are allowed to buy. And that would include food and groceries, medicine, healthcare, basic hygiene products. This would include menstrual products for people with uteruses, bills, utilities, rent, basic replacements for essential goods that are used up. For example, you ran out of dish soap. Obviously, buy some more dish soap so that you don't have dirty dishes, basic stuff like that, and emergency repairs. If your car breaks down, something happens to your door, you need a new garage door lock. These are things that you can and should be replacing, repairing, buying. The no-buy categories often include clothing and accessories. You can only get new clothes if something's worn out and it's essential, like socks, undergarments. If all your jeans rip and you can't wear ripped jeans to work, or if you need new work clothes for any particular reason, those things would be allowed to be repurchased, of course, because the point is not to make you go from a standard of living to living, on crumbs, wearing rags. That's not the point of a no-buy. The no-buy is to help prevent mindless consumption and needless spending. Other categories would be beauty, so no new makeup. Again, if you have an essential piece of product you wear every day and it runs out, you can replace it, but you can't just get more lipstick because you want to. And now complex skincare. You have your skincare routine, you have your things, that's all you're allowed to use and replace those. You can't buy whatever's new and trendy all the time. When it comes to the house, nothing new, no new decor, furniture, appliances, etc. Again, unless it breaks. And then miscellaneous entertainment spending. You don't need no new books, no electronics, no new movies, no streaming services, none of that stuff. And instead, use what you have, maybe borrow from a friend, use your local library, that sort of thing. And most people will have a pre-approved list of things to buy as exceptions, and this often includes gifts for loved ones. So you may not be buying new things for yourself, but say it's your kids, your friend's birthday, a holiday, you can get them a gift. Or if there's a work conference or event that pops up, you might say, if this happens, I'm allowed to go. These are really things that will depend on you or that person as an individual. Maybe you're not going to buy any concert tickets, but if one particular artist decides they're going to go on tour, that one person you would be allowed to buy if they go on tour, but you don't know in advance that they are. So the pre-approved kind of has to say, like, if this happens, that's something that I'm allowed to do. I hope this makes sense. There's a lot more information about no-buys if you just Google more complex rules if you want to try it yourself. The main thing is that you're trying to buy less needlessly and that the rules really should be fitting your life and your needs because we're all different people. We all have different needs, wants, etc. So as long as you're doing something in like the spirit of the no-buy, I think that should count. When it comes to the no-buy, I'd say there are a lot more pros than cons. But there are some cons and we will get to them, but we will start with the pros because even though most people do bad news first, I want to start with the good news first. So we're going to start with the good news. The biggest pro for yourself is if you're doing a no-buy, then all the money you would have been spending, you're not spending. So that could go towards paying off debt, it can go to savings, it can go to retirement. Or if there's a special trip maybe you have planned that a place you've always wanted to go on a bucket list, maybe it goes into a savings account for that specific trip or something. And all that money that you would have spent, it's going somewhere else for you, for your family, for your needs directly. Mentality wise, I think it also can be helpful as you see what you're tempted to buy instead of just go buying it. You feel compelled to buy something, you're like, hold up, wait. And you could track that if you want and see maybe what you're drawn to. You become more aware of what you just are buying money on in general, what you want to spend money on, and have a better mindset, I think, approaching things. You're also probably going to be pushed to solve problems maybe more creatively. I mean, this is a dumb example, but instead of buying a garlic press, maybe you come up with a really nifty, fast way to cut garlic yourself. Like coming up with solutions for things that instead of just buying something a convenient, quick purchase, maybe coming up with a more long-term view on how to fix a problem because you're not just buying things immediately. Things like that. To kind of hark back to something I said earlier in the video, living a more minimalist lifestyle, buying less, can make people more grateful for what they already have, but I don't want that to be misconstrued as people who live minimally because they're forced to be like, well, you should be grateful you have anything, because that is not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that if you are someone who usually buys in excess or could buy in excess, that to withhold from doing so can maybe give you greater appreciation. But for those who have less resources to begin with, I don't think we should be saying you should be more grateful. Instead, we should be trying to help build communal resources to lift everybody up. When it comes to the society pros, I think a huge one is obviously less waste buildup, especially when it comes to shipping, spending less resources, because the planet only has so many resources, and certain countries, America is one of them, are using up the planet's resources much faster than other places around the world. So I think, we could be like, oh, wait a second, hold on here. And if we're thinking from a more mindful view, even for what we are purchasing, we can be thinking about, well, where are we getting the goods? Maybe buying locally, local farmers market instead of a chain grocery store. And there's a lot of, I think, alternative methods to be then the money you are spending, pouring back into your specific community and local economy. to kind of build up that area. And then of course that will have ripple effects and move forward. And if everyone's doing that, then I think, we the people can really succeed. Not everyone will have resources to buy locally in a form or fashion that fits them, but maybe instead of buying from locally, you're trying to buy more sustainably or from certain ethical brands and doing extra research. I know for me that if there's a piece of clothing that I need to replace at this time or need something new, I'm trying to use the site Good On You to find a brand that is in my price range, but still fits certain sustainability trackers and ethical trackers. Again, not everyone can afford to do that. And if you can't afford to do that, but you need, say, a sweater, please buy the sweater. Do not be cold. But if you can afford to buy a sweater that has been kind of like certified and of like labor practicing and such like that, I encourage you to do so, or at least try to do so. And I think even if we all make just little efforts, that can really, really improve the world. Now to the cons, because there are some cons when it comes to no buys. I think the biggest one for the self is that you could feel left out. And you might be thinking, oh, well, that's a dumb thing. It's not dumb, okay? I think, especially if you're a teenager and maybe your parents are doing a no-buy, or you're a young adult and you're trying to do a no-buy, but you want to be cool and trendy, when everyone else has something and you're like, oh, I can't buy it. It's not on my approved category. It's not pre-approved as an exception. I can't go. I can't do it. As much as maybe it's silly, we want to be in the in group. We want to be able to relate to others. We want others to be able to relate to us. We want to have things we can talk about with each other, feel community. And it's very valid to feel left out and upset and sad to not be in that in group. And I think that's really valid. Aside from maybe you just really want something and you can't have it and it makes you sad because maybe you didn't think about it to be pre-approved, but now you want it. Like it wouldn't have occurred to you that something like this would happen, and now it has. This is a continuated example, but for instance, Taylor Swift, we're all ready for Reputation, and then she announces TTPD. And it's like, maybe you're like, if Taylor announces Reputation, I'm buying the vinyl. But you didn't say a whole new album, so now you're like, oh, and you're sad. And again, that's something that's going to be different for every individual, but I think there probably is something for at least everyone that you might feel kind of gutted to not be able to purchase, be able to own, be able to experience. And that's super valid, okay? Very valid. It's normal to want things and like things and want to have them, especially like, trust me, I have a lot of stuff. One of the reasons why I'm trying to buy less things and buy more mindfully is because I do have a lot of things that I do really love. I have an emotional attachment to items, which I'm working on with my therapist. And I really understand wanting to have something to add to your collection, add something to have meaning, and being unable to afford it or buy it because you don't have space or whatever is really sad and really hard. But, that's the big con, I think, for the self. Society-wise, if everybody only bought necessities to live, there would obviously be a huge economic hit to anything kind of miscellaneous entertainment-wise because no one will be buying that stuff. And I don't think that's ever really possible to happen, honestly. But that would be the big society hit of a real no-buy across the board, which is why I think a much more sustainable, more feasible, more realistic option is a low buy. Similar to the no buy, a low buy can also be used to focus more sustainably and in local communities. But I think it's just more realistic because people are going to buy some stuff. In the sense of the categories, there are just usually more pre-approved categories and less completely no categories to buy from. And the categories that you can buy from, perhaps it's kind of a quantity in a period of time or an allotted amount of money for a period of time. For example, maybe you're allowed to buy one new piece of clothing per quarter of the year or something. That way, alongside replacing essentials. You still can't buy whatever you want willy-nilly, but you have a bit more flexibility. Cal, why are you barking? If we want to take the low buy sustainable way, then I have a list of things that I came up with from my research and my own brain. So when you buy new clothes or decor books, stop yourself and buy secondhand, buy from a thrift store, vintage store, used store, church sale. There's usually lots of things like that. You can check out Facebook Marketplace if you're looking for home decor and clothing options, but I think they have a lot of kind of furniture, decorations that could be free or very low cost There could be community swaps. That's usually more with clothing, where you kind of maybe organize one or find one local to you so that you're not necessarily even getting anything new at all, but people can get things that are new to each other, which is really fun to do. You obviously, utilize the library again. Libraries not only have books, but a lot of them have digital media now. So whether it's a streaming service, magazines, there's so many options out there to try and use. Additional sustainable ways to buy things that aren't necessarily low buy, but just sustainable buying could be, if you can, buy in bulk. This helps reduce individual packaging, buying reusable items instead of a disposable one. For example, instead of cotton pads for makeup removal, I actually have reusable ones that you put in the wash. So there are options out there if you do some research and look for what particular items you might be replacing the most. See if you can reuse a similar item to do that same accomplishment. Buy from local businesses when possible, pour into your local community. Again, not everyone's gonna have those resources, but if you do, you should take advantage. As the title of the video asks, should everyone be doing a no-buy year? And it's probably evident by now, but my answer is no. I just don't think a no-buy year is realistic, pragmatic, or useful for everybody. It might be the right answer for you, but I don't think it'd be the right answer for me. And selfishly, then I would say I don't think everyone should be doing it. I think everyone should be doing a low buy / sustainable buy year every year. I think a life living off the bare essentials and only utilizing community resources is sad and unfair because, again, not everyone has the same access to community resources for a variety of reasons. And if you don't have access to those resources, then you're kind of living bare bones. And because I think most people still wouldn't be doing that, I just don't think it's fair or right. And I think mentally could get into a really bad headspace. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you're actually fine and thriving that way. But I think I would get into a really sad headspace. And I just can't encourage anyone to do something that I personally think would be horrible to do. I still really do encourage sustainable buying, a low buy. So we're still being mindful consumers. We're buying much less, just not nothing, because the planet needs us to be nicer to it. The people on the planet need us to be nicer to each other, but also to the planet. We don't have unlimited resources, and the resources we do have, we should be thinking a bit more about how we're using them. And I think that's something that everyone who purchases things regularly should be taking on. Obviously, if you're a kid and you're really not buying stuff, I think it's something to be thinking about, but you're still like trying to figure out the world and learn about the world. But if you are an adult, paying taxes and all that good stuff, then you should be thinking about this because we are the next caretakers of the earth generation-wise. And if we want to be able to leave something to those who come after us, we need to really start kicking it into gear. I mean, yesterday, right? But as they say, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The next best time is today. So let's get on that today action. We've all heard the phrase, money doesn't buy happiness. And while money doesn't buy happiness, a lack of money certainly brings with it stress, anxiety, maybe depression, a lot of unhappiness. So I think it's fair to say that a certain amount of money is needed to afford to live, as we have the very dystopian phrase, the cost of living. Providing you have enough money to afford the cost of living, then yeah, maybe additional money won't make you any happier. But the way it stands currently, money is required for some level of life satisfaction, and it's just ridiculous and ludicrous to pretend otherwise. Doing a low buy, sustainable buy, even a no buy if that's really what you want to do, doing these things can help you prioritize for your essential spending, for the things that will maybe bring you from a beyond essential spending to really peak moments of happiness. Dream trip, dream concert, dream edition of a book, whatever it is. And then with the money you're saving, if you have the option to, you can put it towards retirement. You can put it towards your savings, towards some debt. Take care of something while you're prioritizing your needs and the world's community needs at the same time by being a more mindful consumer, by spending less resources. If something already exists, don't just throw it away. Use it, reuse it, see if you can give it to someone else with a swap, do something like that. Once something already exists, we shouldn't just chuck it to pretend like we're living a more minimalist life. Use the things we already have and use them up. Project Pan with everything in life. If you want to know also what Project Pan means, it means hitting the bottom of the pan and a makeup palette, but I think we can apply that to other things. Use up the bottle of perfume if you like it, and if you don't like the perfume, try to find someone who likes that scent. I think there are small solutions for a lot of problems, and we're not going to solve the world's problems on sustainability by ourselves. Rome wasn't built in a day. Saving the planet won't take a day. But if we all just do, again, what we can do, even if it's just buying one less pair of shoes a year, start small, start cutting back, see what you can reduce. And then I think we can make a difference. We can make a change. Mainly, I just think that instead of nitpicking on individuals for what they can and cannot do, we need to focus on building bigger systems and better systems for communities at large to make a difference, because a rising tide lifts all boats. So we just need to make the rising tide, and then we'll all be lifted together and save the planet. Yay! It's not going to happen overnight, but by making the choices only you can make to consume less, buy local, shop sustainably, whatever it is that you have the option to do, it will make a difference. And I thank you in advance for doing those things. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below your thoughts. Have you ever done a no-buy? Have you ever done a low-buy? Tips for sustainable living, tips for shopping within your communities, whatever it is, I want to hear it. And if you like this video and you want to see more videos from me about lifestyle, film, mental health, whatever, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!